Hello folks, welcome to Lexi IAS Academy. In this video, we will be discussing a current affair compilation for international relations for the month of September 2024. Alright, this video is presented to you by your faculty Sushma KP. Now, this particular current affair compilation is specifically targeted for those of you who are taking up your prelims in your 2025. The compilation is curated in such a manner that it has to be applicable to you in solving other prelims questions, statement questions, or what kind of possible questions can come from a particular topic. Alright, so we will be discussing the topics through your MCQs. Understanding? Now let's get the video started. In this video, we will be discussing topics of Quad, conflict resolution of India, India Singapore relations, security of supplies arrangement, Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, Tapi gas pipeline, and India signed first of its kind under IPEF. We will see about your Pacific Islands Forum and India Gulf Cooperation Council. So this will be the topics that we'll be discussing in today's course of the video. Before we get into the topic, we have a small announcement from Lexi IAS Academy, wherein for those of you who are working and still have a dream of following your passion of civil service examinations, then this course is curated for you, wherein we offer weekend batches at Lexi IAS, where it is going to be starting. The classes are starting from April 19th onwards. The batch will be closing soon, so register yourself. One of the important things about your Lexi IAS Academy is it is a strict 40 member group so as to provide you your individual attention, personalized coaching, and also at the same point of time in all three stages prelims, mains, interview. You are handheld and hand guided in the entire process, be it with respect to your prelims mock test series, mains answer writing, or your mock panel interviews. Now, for those of you who are working, you might feel that I do not have a background with, or let's say, I do not have a touch. I have forgotten all the things that I've studied in my graduation, or I'm from science background, I'm from arts background. You do not have to worry about any such thing, because one of the main things about your Lexias Academy is we offer the foundational course, that is NCRT courses, and then once we have set you up in the basics, then we start with your advanced classes. To know more about how the classes are, you can go to your Lexi IS mobile app and have an instant access to your demo classes. Otherwise, you can even come and attend a demo class in the offline class as well. For any information regarding the course curriculum fee structure, you can contact the information given below, where all the details of this will be linked down in the description. Right? Now, with regard to anyone who is specifically appearing for your prelims 2025, Lexi IAS has come up with free all India prelims mock test. Make use of this, see where you stand in your preparation, and do adjustments as it's needed. Okay? Now, coming back to the topic. All the topics we will be discussing as usual, like a story. You listen to it like a story, then we will solve or know more about the topic based on your MCQs. The first topic of the day is your quad. Now, when we say quad, one of the common criticisms that it is receiving from your China. First, I'll tell you why China. Before I'm even introducing you the members of quad, I am discussing about China. The reason is, see, there is a pre, that is, let's say, your pre-Cold War alliance. Why I'm telling it as pre-Cold War alliance is this was right out of your Second World War. Once your Second World War concluded, the world entered into bipolarity. Okay, two equal strong opposing forces. But when we say equal strong opposing forces, US has had the time to develop itself over centuries. The other force that we are speaking about is your USSR. Now, when we say equal forces, they do not just mean that, yes, economically, military might, defense, okay, not just in that way, but also in equally contradicting ideologies. It was a war of ideologies, your post Second World War. was a new beginning to a new ideology. In the Second World War, we saw Nazism, fascism, capitalism, all of those things, but that was a different fight. But post the Second World War, the fight was between your capitalism and communism. That is between the West and the East. That is between your US and USSR, or your Soviet Union. Among this fight, the world became a bipolar, that is your Second World War, uh, after your Second World War. So this is the beginning stage of your Cold War era. That is why I said pre Cold War grouping. When we are speaking about, there was a clear distinction between two rival forces, that is your USA and USSR. 1989 fall of Berlin Wall, USSR disintegration, and then finally your capitalism prevailed over communism, all those things fine. Then the bipolar world got converted into a unipolar world. What is a unipolar world? Where USA was the reigning champion. That fellow became the hegemon. Understanding? Now, when this is the scenario, what happened was, always for a world, understand this, bipolarity is a better option compared to unipolarity, because of one simple fact is that each of them will offer checks and balances to each other. Post year 1991, USA became the hegemon. What he says goes. To that, another person started rising. The world automatically tries to find a balance between your IR or in your normal world order, wherein the countering force was trying to coming from your China factor. I'm not using the word China here, I'm using the word China factor, which means there was a possible imminent prediction or a possible future threat that could from the growth of China. Rapid industrialization China started having, its secondary sector started flourishing. Even today we see that. Yes, coupled with its aggressive policies, coupled with its aggressive growth, economic restructuring, everything started growing. So there was a possible imminent threat of China factor in the 1990s, but that was not seen that much as a threat to counter the hegemon of USA. But present day, if you see who is the countering balance for your US, that is your China. Today there is no China factor, it is outright China. Yeah, China always threatens countries with sanctions, tariffs. The same thing, if it tries to do with China, it counters it back. Presently, your China is having almost 30% of trade with USA. That is top 30%. Your USA has levied tariff tangles. That is, the trade war is going on. See, we had World War, then we had Cold War, and now we are in trade war. This trade war is different hitting than your World War or your Cold War for different reasons. The geopolitical order is changing, the geo-economic order is changing, and everything is focused around China, and more specifically your Indo-Pacific region. It houses more than half of the world's population, and it carries out almost two-thirds of the world's trade, which makes it the most important area, your Indo-Pacific region. Territorially, yes, China has that claim over, at least it claims it has sovereignty over the entirety of Nine Dash Line or your South China Sea. But your USA is here, even though it doesn't have any territorial claim over your South China Sea or your Indo Pacific region towards your South China Sea, Indian Ocean region. It is a major interested party where it wants to counter the dominance of China. And to that, it has brought in something called as Quad. While we were discussing just a few minutes earlier, we were discussing about your Cold War period, wherein you had groupings and alliances in the name of NATO from your US backed West allies, and to counter that, your Soviet Union had come up with Warsaw. That was your Cold War alliance. Presently, even present day Russia, if you take, It is no longer bothered about trying to neutralize NATO, but it is more about neutralizing the economy of USA. Because once you neutralize the economy of USA, then automatically its allies and NATO will also get neutralized. So today, the alliance that is more, which is presently more active, if you see more compared to your NATO, that is your Quad. Why? Because that is an organization which is set up. Again, this is not any formal an organization. The way they've kept it is, it's just an informal grouping. The informal grouping for in your South China Sea, that is more specifically, we shouldn't use the word South China Sea, even though that is what it is intended to. It is more about your Indo-Pacific. In clear terms, in simple terms, layman terms, without any polishing words if I have to use, it is to counter China in your Indo-Pacific region. And for that, your US is trying to use and leverage India as an opponent, because India is the one that shares the territory with China. And it is also one of the global South countries, and it is also trying to become the voice of global South. So using all this position, US is trying to make alliances with India to counter your NATO, and that is to counter your China. Quad is not to be considered as Asian NATO because it is not a military grouping. India has always had to be very wary and cautious about trying to make sure that Quad does not become a military grouping. This has been one of the difficulties. With Quad alongside, there is a new development called a Squad. Understanding who are the member countries, we will see. With respect to your Quad, the member countries are your India, Japan, Australia, and United States of America. Today we are speaking about Quad is because it's become 20 years since the formation. 2025 Quad Leaders Summit pe they held about Wilmington Declaration, and also your next Quad Summit will be hosted by India. Okay, look at this. In your Wilmington Declaration, 4 years since elevating the Quad to a leader level format, the Quad is more strategically aligned than ever before and is a force for good that reads positive and enduring impact on the Indo Pacific. They say, if you see formally what the Quad people are telling, they say it is for health, education, cooperation, sustainability. So much so that in your Wilmington Declaration, etc., you will see that they are taking a oath to fight. Now, when I say oath, it is more for declaration to fight for your cervical cancer. So they are telling it is more for the sustainable development of this region. They have not openly come out and told that this is to counter your China presence, but it is very much understood what it is. Look at this quad cancer moonshot, which is about your cervical cancer. They are trying to do. And look at this quad ports of the future partnership. Very much, if you see about quad in your Wilmington Declaration, majority will be about your maritime security, watchfulness as to monitoring the maritime area, security increasing. It'll be almost around these lines only. Look at this Quad Ports of Future Partnership, Maritime Initiative for Training the Indo Pacific, that is your Maitri, Quad at Sea Ship Observer Mission, and also critical and emerging technologies, semiconductor supply chains. So this is directly countering your China's growing presence in your semiconductor, critical minerals technologies, and all of this. And when your trade tariffs get affected between your US and China, this is one thing that will come as an issue because of your semiconductor and critical minerals. Okay. With respect to your Quad, it is a global force for good. It is neither a military alliance nor a mutual defense agreement. Okay. It focuses on your health, climate, critical and emerging technology, space infrastructure, and cyber technologies. Now look at this. What are the major initiatives of Quad Fellowship? Okay, wherein students to be involved in your STEM fields, science, technology, education, your engineering. The Quad Climate Change Adaptation and Mitigation Package, that is QCHAMP, Quad Champ. For prelims perspective, these things are important. Just what is this QCHAMP and what is it associated with? Quad Climate Change Adaptation and Mitigation. Then Quad Debt Management, Quad Partnership for Cable Connectivity and Resilience. Understanding? Now, Quad principles for digital public infrastructure, where India Stack is India's own foundation for your DPI, or that is your digital public infrastructure, and also to make sure that connectivity will be one of the main factors surrounding it. Now they have come up with Quad. All the members of Quad except India, Japan, Australia, Philippines, USA. So India is left out from the Squad. We will learn more about your Quad from your MCQs. Which of the following countries is not a member of Quad? India, USA, Japan, South Korea. Correct answer is South Korea. The Quad aims to ensure security in which of the following regions? Indo Pacific, Mediterranean, Arctic, Southeast Asia. Correct answer is Indo Pacific region. Quad is often viewed as a response to growing influence of which of the following countries in the Indo-Pacific region? China, Russia, Pakistan, North Korea. The primary aiming is at China. Even though in recent times you can see North Korea has increased its military engagements, missile testings. So your US is also putting a watch on that, and with your squad, it is trying to increase its dominance in the South China area. Which of the following military exercises has been conducted by the Quad countries in the Indo-Pacific region? Malabar, Vajra Prahar, Cope India, Red Flag. Correct answer is Malabar exercise. Okay, where all the Quad countries took part. The Quad meeting has a major focus on which of the following areas, among others? Climate change and sustainable development, counter terrorism, ensuring a free and open Indo Pacific, defense cooperation in the Middle East. Correct answer is ensuring a free and open Indo Pacific. The Quad grouping, sometimes referred to as an Asian NATO, has been growing in prominence due to which of the following global concerns? Climate change and its impact on Indo Pacific, increasing assertiveness of China and South China Sea, rising threats from terrorism emanating in Middle East, nuclear proliferation in Korean Peninsula. Correct answer is increasing assertiveness of China in the South China Sea area. India's role in Quad primarily reflects its commitment to maintaining a strategic balance of power in the Indo Pacific, direct military intervention in South China Sea, strengthening economic ties with China, exclusive defense collaboration with United States. It is maintaining a strategic balance of power in the Indo Pacific. In recent Quad summits, a central theme has been to promote free and open Indo Pacific. This is primarily aimed at countering military expansion of Russia, ensuring unimpeded trade and maritime freedom, promoting political stability in Africa, preventing spread of nuclear weapons. Correct answer is ensuring unimpeded trade and maritime freedom, especially in your Indo-Pacific region. The Quad countries are often seen as a balancing force in the Indo Pacific region. Which of the following military capabilities are promoted as part of this? Expansion of nuclear arsenals, improved surveillance and maritime domain awareness, direct intervention in regional conflicts, strengthening global peacekeeping operations. Correct answer is improved surveillance and maritime domain awareness. Again, everything here, like I mentioned, is about your maritime. The next topic that we'll be seeing is India's role in conflict resolution. See, this as a topic, it might appear more like a mains topic, but the questions from this will be very much needed for your prelims. Look at this: diplomatic relation and mediation. These are all the tactics that India utilizes in order to solve your global conflicts, especially now with respect to your Russia Ukraine war. India was the country which said that your negotiations cannot happen in your battleground, but it has to happen in your negotiation table, which means it is prompting for more and more immediate ceasefire. While many countries criticized India as being neutral, India has told that it is always taking a stance that both of you have to reach a consensus. First, put an immediate ceasefire in operation, and the same thing it has even propagated with respect to Israel and Hamas also. So India has always been a mediator in many of the situations wherein we see in African countries or your Southeast Asian countries. This is the role that India has played, and what further questions from this topic we will see in your MCQs. Okay. We are bound by your rule based order. Okay. and international organizations, treaties, all of this. If you see, India is more or less a country which is, we can for sure say that it follows a rule based system, and we are very much invested in the peacekeeping forces. Okay. Which of the following best describes India's approach towards conflict resolution in international relations? Active involvement in military interventions, focus on diplomatic engagement and peaceful negotiation, advocacy for economic sanctions against conflict states, favoring the use of force in resolving territorial disputes. Correct answer is focus on diplomatic engagement and peaceful negotiations. India has historically supported which of the following principles as part of its conflict resolution? Non-violence, economic sanctions, coercive diplomacy, arms proliferation. It is always non-violence or otherwise ahimsa. The previous one is also supported by, see, India is no longer a country where we cannot tell that we will not use arms, but we are also the kind of country where we have no first use policy, especially with regarding to your nuclear capabilities. India played a significant role in the resolution of Sri Lankan civil war. Which of the following Indian initiatives was central to this? Direct military intervention, Indian peacekeeping force, hosting peace talks in Delhi, economic sanctions against Sri Lankan government. The first and most central thing is Indian peacekeeping force. India's engagement in peacekeeping missions under United Nations has been a cornerstone of its role in global conflict resolution, which is one of the stances where we are asking for permanent seat in UNSC because India is one of the major contributors to your peacekeeping force. Which of the following countries has India notably contributed peacekeeping forces to? Rwanda, Democratic Republic of Congo, Kosovo, all of the above. Correct answer is all of the above. India's role in the Afghanistan peace process is characterized by hosting the Taliban in New Delhi for peace talks, providing military support to the Afghan, focusing on development assistance and diplomatic dialogue, supporting the partition of Afghanistan. First and foremost, presently Afghanistan is under the control of your Taliban, which India hasn't had any diplomatic relationship with, but rather India focuses on developing, giving development assistance and diplomatic dialogue, especially with provision of your wheat and then your vaccines. India's neighborhood first policy emphasizes conflict resolution through. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ busy ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಈಗ. India's neighborhood first policy emphasizes conflict resolution through military alliance with neighbor project in Iran is primarily aimed at expanding military influence, providing a strategic gateway for conflict resolution in Afghanistan and Central Asia, countering China's presence in the Persian Gulf, building economic ties with the United States. See, first and foremost, you know how volatile the situation and unpredictable the situation is with respect to Pakistan and India. If India has to gain access to Central Asia and more specifically to Afghanistan, there was no other way. The excessive reliance on Pakistan and constantly Pakistan shutting down its roads, where we couldn't even take humanitarian aid, vaccines to Afghanistan, led us into diversion of route that is through your Chabahar port from your Iran, and that is the answer, providing a strategic gateway for conflict resolution in Afghanistan and Central Asia. India's participation in the Shimla Agreement 1972 with Pakistan emphasizes the resolution of issues through United Nations mediation, bilateral negotiation and peaceful dialogue, economic sanction, military intervention. The answer is bilateral negotiation and peaceful dialogue. Even though we try that, our neighbor is not cut out for it. India's role in the mediation of Cambodian conflict in the 1990s is a notable example of its commitment to peace. Which organization did India collaborate with? ASEAN, United Nations, SARC, Shanghai Cooperation. It is United Nations. India conflicts resolution approach in Africa has primarily been focused on offering military support to various African nations, promoting peace, stability, and socio-economic development through the African Union, advocating for African states to resolve disputes without external interference, Using economic leverage to resolve conflicts. Correct answer is promote peace stability, especially through African Union and with the partnership of your Japan. The next topic that we will be seeing is with your India Singapore relations. One important thing about your Singapore is initially your British had set up Singapore as a trading post, and they used to control this area from your Kolkata back then. Not your present day Kolkata, back then Kolkata. Your trading station, which was kept as your Singapore, was controlled from your Kolkata. Even today, in present world order, there's only three city state concepts that is recognized, and one of them is your Singapore. Okay. When Singapore got independence in 1965, India was one of the first countries to recognize its independence. The person who had established Singapore as a trading post was Sir Stamford Raffles. When Singapore got independence in 1965, we were one of the first countries to accept the independence. And 2005, 2015 itself, the partnership between India and Singapore reached comprehensive strategic partnership. And also with regard to your ASEAN, Singapore is the largest trading partner in ASEAN. The exercises that we have with our Singapore is Agni Warrior, Simbex, Air Force exercise, joint military training. Okay, keep this in mind. Again, why India Singapore has come in? Because your head of state, the prime minister, went to visit the state, so which is bringing its importance. What is the significance? First of all, India bridges to Southeast Asia, one of a very important member country, and also we have good amount of diaspora in your Singapore. We have a lot of cultural exchange also, and otherwise, if you see with regard to the FDI, Singapore was the largest source of FDI into India in year 2023-24, and our smart city project in India is also helped by your Singapore. Which of the following best describes the nature of India Singapore relation? Cultural exchange, strong economic and strategic cooperation, limited to defense and security, focused only on bilateral trade and agriculture. Correct answer is strong economic and strategic cooperation. Which of the following bilateral agreements between India and Singapore is focused on enhancing trade and economic cooperation? India Singapore Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement, Strategic Partnership Agreement, Security Cooperation Agreement, Tourism Promotion Agreement. It is CECA or Comprehensive Economic Cooperation. Singapore India Joint Working Group on Counterterrorism is an important aspect of bilateral cooperation between two countries. It aims to combat regional terrorism in Southeast Asia, cyber terrorism, terrorism emanating from Pakistan, global terror organizations like Al Qaeda and ISIS. More specifically, it is combating terrorism among the borders of your India and Singapore. Now, when I say among the borders of India and Singapore, that is, we are not telling we are neighbors. We are not neighbors, but the threat that is emanating because of terrorism is trying to be handled by India and Singapore on that front. Look at this. India and Singapore Joint Working Committee on Combating Terrorism and Transnational Crime. Okay. In recent years, India and Singapore have been focusing on cooperation in the field of education. Which of the following initiatives has contributed to this collaboration? Singapore India Education Partnership, Scholarship for Singaporean Students in Indian University, Institute of South Asian Studies, Indian Technological Development Center in Singapore. Correct answer is Singapore India Educational Partnership. More about it is about your skill development and also making sure about women empowerment in the middle countries, that is middle economy levels. Okay. Look at this. Shri Dharmendra Pradhan meets Singapore Prime Minister H.E. Lawrence Wong. India and Singapore strengthens partnership through talent, resource, and market. Next topic is security of supplies arrangement, which India has signed with USA. In simpler terms, if you have to know what this is, in times of peace, in times of armed rebellions, I mean armed conflicts, in times of necessary situation, There should be a seamless flow of defense and information. India also signed a MOU alongside this for stationing of important positions. So this is a seamless transfer of defense and India's readiness at the time of need between your India and USA. Okay, this is to promote national defense, secure mutual timely provision for defense related goods and services. Look at this, timely provisions in times of need. It could be in the period of peace, it could be period of negotiation, it should be in the period of armed conflict. Okay, look at this, peacetime, emergency, armed conflicts. India is the 18th SOSA partner of USA. It is legally not binding. And also, if you see with regard to defense and India, India is dedicated by USA as the major defense partner since 2016. India and your USA have also signed four important or basic foundational agreements. That is your General Security Military Information Agreement, LEMOA, COMCASA, and BECA. The US India Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies. At the same point of time, these terminologies, just know what it is about. It is about strategic technology partnership, more specifically about defense. Indus X is to build defense innovation between India and US. That is why US, Indus X. And also there is Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, that is SIPRI. One of the things, if you see with regard to India, especially with the growing presence of China in our neighborhood, India also has to be militarily ready, for which India's majority of your weapons, that is 65% of Indian weapons, were supplied by your Russia. But this was also happening. See, Russia was also one of our major partners with regarding your oil trade, crude oil trade also. One thing is, India is a very energy hungry country right now in the stage that it is. So what happened was, during your Russia war, which is presently happening, Russia-Ukraine war, in the starting stages when Russia went into your Ukraine annexed war, majority of West left the Russian markets for oil. So there was a significant cutoff in its finances. Alongside that, your EU all decided to do freezing of Russian assets, etc. But what Russia tried to do was, it started selling its oil at discounted prices, which tempted India to buy it. At the same point of time, India also has bought good amount of nuclear weapons, not nuclear weapons, good amount of Indian weapons from your Russia, as much as 65%. So this will anger USA. And if you anger USA in things, so like for example, we can't have a deal with Iran, we can't have a deal with Venezuela. Why? Because India, your USA has CATCASA. That is, what is it? US countering American adversaries through Sanctions Act. If anyone which USA labels as you shouldn't do deal with them, and if any countries does that, then that country will be imposed with sanctions. So in the fear of CATCASA was your relations between your India and Russia also. Let's look at some of the questions. Under the SOSA agreement, USA commits to ensure the supply of which of the following to India? Military weapons, ammunition, critical defense technology and maintenance part, intelligence sharing on security threats, nuclear fuel for power generation. The correct answer is critical defense technology and maintenance parts. The SOSA agreement between India and USA is aimed at ensuring availability of critical defense supplies during geopolitical tensions and wars, global peacekeeping missions, international trade disruption, national disaster. Correct answer is geopolitical tensions and wars. Next question. SOSA agreement between India and USA is considered a significant step in which aspect of bilateral defense relations? Shared military base for joint operation, enhancing defense technology, collaboration and logistics, development of a joint defense force, setting up of bilateral intelligence sharing network. The correct answer is enhancing defense technology. What is the strategic importance of SOSA agreement in context of India's defense and security? Allows India to acquire advanced nuclear technologies and ensures India's defense capabilities are not compromised during critical situations. Establishes a mutual defense pact for joint military operations. Allows for creation of unified defense command within the USA. Correct answer is ensures India's defense capabilities are not compromised during critical situations. That is seamless flow. SOSA agreement is expected to bolster which of the following aspects of India US defense cooperation? Joint missile, long-term strategic military alliance, reciprocal access to military bases, supply chain security, and critical defense supplies. It is supply chain security and defense supplies. The next topic that I'll be looking into is Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative. First and foremost, the main pillars which are surrounding your Indo-Pacific region means it is maritime security, maritime ecology, maritime resources, capacity building, trade, connectivity, science and technology, disaster risk and management. So it is more of a holistic development of your Indo-Pacific region. Now, this is a non treaty based voluntary agreement. It is free and open for your Indo Pacific region. This is launched by India, and this is launched by India on a basis with like minded countries. That is one key important thing. This is not just like how Indo Pacific countries, everyone will be there, then China should be there. Yes or no? No, but this is with respect to like minded countries who are in the process of your achieving and attaining sustainable development growth. But here is the catch, based on rule based order. Understanding? So, if you see the philosophy of your uh, Indo Pacific, it is based on your Sagar initiative, which was launched in 2015, which is security and growth for all in the region. Okay. Look at this. Now, which area contributes to Indo-Pacific is also sometimes an issue, because India considers from your Africa, that is from this region onwards, it is Indo-Pacific. Whereas your USA consider it is from the west banks of your India, it is Indo-Pacific. So there is a difference of perception on what contributes to your Indo-Pacific. Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative launched by India primarily aims at enhancing trade between Indo-Pacific countries, promote sustainable and inclusive development of Indo-Pacific region, counter influence of non-state actors, focus on military cooperation. Correct answer is promote sustainable and inclusive development in Indo-Pacific region. Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative, as proposed by India, primarily focus on which of the key areas? Maritime security, economic connectivity, environmental sustainability, military and defense cooperation, reduction of regional tensions in South China Sea, establishment of permanent regional defense pact. Correct answer is maritime security, economic connectivity, and environmental sustainability. Which of the following is a key element of Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative? Establishing permanent Indian Navy, encouraging free trade agreement, strengthening cooperation for maritime security and sustainable use of maritime resources, promoting nuclear disarmament. Correct answer is maritime security, sustainable use of marine resources. The next topic we will be discussing is your Tapi gas pipeline project. Your Tapi gas pipeline project, initially, again, the present day situation is the feasibility and long term growth of your Tapi, especially with the sensitive areas and sensitive handling and volatile regions of your Afghanistan and Pakistan, is creating a doubt with your Tapi gas pipeline project. Why it has come into news is because Afghanistan and Turkmenistan officials have inaugurated the Tapi from your Turkmenistan side. Okay, so basically, what TAPI is, it will transport the natural gas from your Galkinish gas field in your Turkmenistan, and it will bring it all over to your Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. This, look at this, from Galkishna gas field to Afghanistan, Pakistan, India. One of the ways that people propose that TAPI would be helpful is to counter China in Central Asia, counter China's presence in Central Asia. But as long as Pakistan is there, that would not be an easy thing for us to do. This project is financed by your Asian Development Bank. The next topic that we will be discussing is India has signed first of its kind agreement with IPEF. See, again, strictly from your prelims perspective, understand it is launched in 2022 at Tokyo in Japan. The member countries are Australia, Brunei, Fiji, India, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, South Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, USA. You have to know about your Important thing means four pillars: trade, supply chain resilience, clean economy, and fair economy. India has joined pillars for 2 and 4. Okay. And it is about your upskilling for women, critical mineral technology. So pretty much this kind. This is the first of its kind. Next topic that we will be seeing is your Pacific Islands Forum. These are the member countries. Why this Pacific Island Forum has come into news is because they have formed a new organization. Now when I say organization, do not consider it as another separate thing, but agreement among these member countries to elevate the law enforcement capabilities in Pacific Island nations, and also to neutralize the security threats that is affecting these countries. These are your Pacific Island countries. Just have a look at this because of the current affair pe coming. Okay. Next topic is your India Gulf Cooperation Council. They have started the first ever Gulf Cooperation Council joint ministerial meeting for the strategic dialogue, the action plan for 2024 and 2028, wherein they are specifically dealing with the member countries of India and Gulf, and also try to establish a negotiation table. For example, for any issues that arises in these areas, these are the member countries that will offer the first negotiation. Okay. Look at this. It was started in Riyadh. Members are Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, and Oman. With respect to remittances, etc., UAE is one of the highest members that's coming in, and also India has tried to have a good friendly relationship among these countries. Okay. So they are focused on the three P's: people, prosperity, and progress. That is between your India and Gulf Cooperation Council. We've reached the end of the topic. If you like our content, subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it along with your friends. Thank you.